Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Heart, and welcome back to the Baseball Head. Hope you like this video and subscribe. What's going on? Well, it's funny you should mention what's going on. But before we get to it, of course, you have to hit that subscribe button. We're going to have so much content on this channel. Obviously, this week with the GM meetings going on and free agents being signed, and on the Baseball Hut too, because the meltdown has already begun. It's already begun at WFAN. But we're going to get into this video just to give you a couple other things for you to chew on that's going on with the New York Mets. A couple things happened today, other than the manager. Adam Ottavino. I know you're all interested in what's going to happen with him. Everybody. He thought he could renegotiate his contract with the Mets. He had an option. He signed a one-year deal with the Mets last year. And he decides, like, you know what? I want to renegotiate so I don't have to do the opt-out on my second year. Well, the Mets told him, no, we're not renegotiating. So he's now a free agent. Good. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Bye-bye. So long. Part of the losing of this team this past year, he had to go. Just wanted to get that out of the way. There's been a lot of manager movement today. Before we get into this whole situation that happened with Craig Counsell and Mets new manager Carlos Mendoza, a lot of movement today in baseball. The Guardians named Stephen Voigt the manager in Cleveland, which was an amazing thing. He just retired. Didn't he just retire last year? So he retired last year, and now he's a manager. He's well thought of. I don't know if he coached this past year or what happened, but he's now the manager of the Guardians. He takes over for Terry Francona now. Now let's talk about our New York Mets. Now the Mets, at the end of the season, the last day of the season, they let go. They gave Buck a choice. You either say you're resigning or you're fired. They told him he was resigning, so he was fired because the new guy coming in, Dave Stearns, wanted a new manager. Okay? And over the last month, the search has been sort of going on. And in the last 2 weeks, last week and this week, it has heated up pretty significantly, especially with Craig Counsell having been given early permission to talk to other teams. And apparently, it did not go over well in Milwaukee, what happened with Counsell leaving. So I'm going to talk a lot about him in this video as well. But the Mets put on a search. Now, a lot of names, we don't know who they talked to. There was really only 3 names that I heard, and that was Craig Counsell, Carlos Mendoza, and Mark Kotsay, the Oakland A's manager. Now, Craig Counsell, he did not obviously go to the Mets. The rumor was early on that today he was going to decide where he was going to go. Then, as we were getting closer to what was going on, the decision was sort of told that the Mets had hired Carlos Mendoza to be the manager, and that Counsell was going to manage somewhere other than Milwaukee, because he was interviewed by the Guardians, but he was going somewhere else. Nobody knew where it was. There was sort of some talk for a little bit that the Yankees fired Aaron Boone and they were going to sign Counsell to be the manager. But that didn't happen. And then a little while after that, it was discovered that Counsell signed a 5-year, $40 million contract with the Cubs. Now I have a question. Has he won a World Series? No. I have a question. Does he have the resume of Joe Torre? No. Was he going to be coming here? A lot of people were saying that he wasn't going to come here to the Mets. I, for one, was on the side that I didn't feel comfortable saying that he was going to be the manager of this team, because he's small time. He wants to be in a small market, and he wants to be somewhere where the pressure is not on him. He was in Milwaukee all those years. He's been a player that's been in small markets, Arizona, Milwaukee, and he just didn't want to be in a place that that was going to put so much pressure and emphasis on winning. And he's gone to a big market, but quite frankly, Chicago, the fans are like a college town. They are a small market college town attitude there. You win, great. The Cubs fans' attitudes, and this is how it's always been, is getting drunk at the ballpark, hanging out in the bleachers. If the Cubbies win, great. If they lose, well, we'll get them tomorrow. That's their attitude. There isn't that intensity to win every year like it is here in New York. And the media falls very much in line, and they have a very homerish type broadcast. If you've listened to the broadcast, it's not as bad as, say, the Braves or the Phillies. But they are a bit of homers. They'll tell you like it is if they're bad. But there's not a lot of pressure on the manager. So Counsell obviously didn't want to come here to New York. He was playing the Mets. I have very little respect for him, to be honest with you, because the Cubs had a manager. And he was able to get more money out of the Cubs, squeeze more money out of the Cubs, and got someone unemployed. David Ross has been a good manager. He was part of that team in between them having let go of Joe Madden, and now he is now unemployed. That's terrible. It's terrible that he doesn't have a job. And even though they had a lousy finish to their season, they had a good year. They had a winning season. You cannot sort of underscore that. So I have very little respect for Craig Counsell for undermining that. And apparently the owner of the Brewers is not too happy. He said, quote, that Counsell lost the town and he lost the fans. And I think that pretty much sums up how they're going to look at him and how they're going to look at the Cubs. There is a bit of a rivalry between Chicago and Milwaukee. A lot of times the Cubs fans, they go up to Milwaukee and cause all kinds of trouble up there by taking over the ballpark. This will not go over well up there. Now, that's not our problem. The Mets did not hire Counsell. The Mets were being used by Counsell to jack up the price that he got. Now, he's making $8 million a year. Like I said, he's never won a World Series. He's never been to the World Series as a manager. He was able to take the Brewers one year to the Game 7 NLCS. That's about it. How did he get this money? Well, he found a big market team that has a small market attitude with the fans and with the media there. So he got very lucky. Now the Mets are hiring to be their manager Carlos Mendoza. I wouldn't know Carlos if I fell on him. Okay, the first time I heard about his name being mentioned was about, 2-3 weeks ago? So I have no idea what to expect out of him. Obviously, Dave Stearns has no problem bringing in a young manager, and he's 43 years old. I was surprised to hear that he was that young. 43 years old and has managed in the minors. I thought that it was a big plus for him that he has been in New York for the last 4 years as the bench coach for the Yankees. I think that is a pretty good preparation for him. And he has managed about 24 games because, as you know, Aaron Boone's always getting thrown out. So he's had some time in charge, as limited as it's been, as manager as the bench coach for the Yankees. Now, there is a big brouhaha here. Obviously, a lot of people are very upset that the Mets did not bring in Craig Counsell. I was thinking about it. If Craig Counsell didn't want to be here, then you don't want him here. Okay? And apparently, Steve Cohen is a pretty smart guy. He kind of figured that the guy didn't want to be here. And to be honest with you, and I've said this, Counsell was not a great fit here. He was not going to do well here. I just didn't feel it. But to go back to Mendoza, he is an unknown. I don't think that he will embarrass us like Mickey Callaway. Remember Mickey used to go think. Always trying to get a date with the women. All these different reporters. He's trying to get a date with all the women in the stands. I don't think he'll be doing that. And I don't think he'll be like Luis Rojas. Now, I understand some people. It's weird. The media here, half the media wanted the Mets to keep Buck Showalter, and the other half didn't. I fell on the side of, I'm not a media person, but I was on the side that Buck had to go. I felt that Buck needed to go back in June. He had a great first year, but the second year was a disaster. Now, if you brought him back for next year, You have a new boss, and there's going to be so much pressure on Buck to get this team off to a fast start. And if they didn't get off to a fast start next year, the pressure on Stearns to fire him would have been humongous. So a lot of the media is going to be complaining that, and I've heard little bits and pieces of it. They were complaining on Friday that was a big problem. But Buck did a lousy job here this year. He needed to be fired, all right? And I wanted him here when the Mets hired him. I thought he was the perfect guy for the Mets at that time. Now you have a new guy running the ball club. He wanted his own guy in here. He brought his own guy here. There's no baggage with this guy, as far as we know yet, if there is any. He brought in a guy that was up for a lot of jobs. He was probably going to be up. He was up for the Guardians job. He was up for the Giants job. He didn't get it. You know, he was a guy that was interviewing with a lot of teams. He interviewed with teams last year. Didn't get jobs. So didn't get a job last year. But he's an unknown. And we're not going to know how he is until that moment when there's a problem or how he handles the media. But like I said, he's been in New York. And that's the biggest thing. That's a big thing that he's been here for the last few years, just to understand the terrain here. So hopefully he understands that. But Craig Counsell, I'll tell you, he played us pretty good. And I think, to me, I'm glad he's not here, because he played us pretty good, and he played the fan base, and he certainly played the media pretty good. They played pretty well here. And I will have plenty of videos on the media, because the media will give me content on the Baseball Hotel with their insane takes. They will be calling for the firing of David Stearns. Someone wrote on Twitter that, why did you hire, it was Steve Gelbs, I think. We don't know how Mendoza is going to do, he said. But you know what? This is why the Mets hired David Stearns, to make these difficult decisions. I would mention a couple of things. I sort of goofed on Adam Ottavino. He had to go. Stearns, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, he has been getting rid of so many people, so many players off the minor league rosters and off the major league roster. A lot of players have declared free agency that were on this team that were a mess. It was spare parts. And he's gotten rid of a ton of minor league players. At least 20 to 30 players. At least 40, 50 players throughout the whole entire organization have been basically released and given their unconditional release, or been outright waivers and have been put back to the minor league system. So all these guys have been bouncing around. There's so many guys that are going to be out of this organization, which is great. They need to do a whole total house cleaning, a whole new situation here, a whole new boss, and we have a new manager. Now we got to go. And here's the thing. It all comes down to the players. Whichever team comes in here that Stearns puts together, the team has to win. Okay. If he brings in players that don't win, the manager will be fired. If the players don't win, Stearns will be fired eventually. So it's all about the players. If the players don't come in and do what they need to do, play hard, win every day, it's not going to matter who the manager is. Simple as that. That's why Buck got fired. Plus, Buck's attitude changed. Something that changed from last year to this year. But if you don't have the right players, you can't win. And it's as simple as that. It doesn't matter who the owner is. It doesn't. I mean, really, all that matters. It doesn't matter who the manager is, but it matters who the players are. The players play when they're supposed to play well, and they get big hits, and they get big outs. That's all that matters, and that will make a great manager great. It's as simple as that. If Stearns is coming in here, he's brought in this manager. If he gives the manager bad players, they're going to play poorly. If he brings in good players, they're going to play well. It's about as simple a formula as it can get. And I don't think some people understand that. I think I know if you're watching, you understand that. I know that a lot of the media pretends not to understand that. They think you bring the right guy in, the name guy, he's going to change things. I also mentioned a couple of things I thought was kind of funny the last few weeks. People mentioned Daniel Murphy as the manager of the Mets. Why? He said that he retired because he wants to be with his kids. Somebody's mentioned David Wright, only because David was, at a game a couple of weeks ago. And he said he's spending time with his family. He has no interest in managing. And then someone mentioned today Carlos Beltran, even though about almost a month ago, it came out that the Mets weren't interested in anybody in the organization. Now, some interesting things and some interesting notes before I end this video. The Mets have to make a decision on the pitching coach. They have to make decisions on Eric Chavez. And those were the two big guys, really. And are they going to bring in another... Are they going to bring in an experienced manager who could be the bench coach? The two names I've heard, and I heard this a little while ago, was Phil Nevin, and believe it or not, Gabe Kapler to be the bench coach on this team. Gabe Kapler scares me, to be honest with you. But those are the names we've been hearing. So this is a brand new situation. This is not the days of the Wilpons, folks. This is not the days even of Epler. This guy is coming in, and he's just putting whoever he wants in here, and that's it. That's why I hired him. He has full autonomy here. He's not being held back by Steve Cohen. Now, I wouldn't mention this about Steve Cohen. He waited 3 years to bring this guy in here to run this ball club. And now he's got him in here. Just let him do his job. We'll see how it goes. I expect a lot of things to happen now the next week or so. I expect some player movement just overall in general in Major League Baseball. And I do expect the Mets to make a big move. What that is, probably Yamamoto. I don't know about Ohtani. But they're going to make a couple big moves to get this team, to get some buzz going into next year. It's not going to be a total disaster next year at all. I think they'll be in contention. You just need to get 84. I mean, look at the Diamondbacks. They won 84 games. And they got to the World Series. So, it's all great. That's all we want. We want the Mets to win. That's all that matters. Don't let the haters and the anti-Met fans get you down. So, thank you for watching this video. Appreciate the time you take to watch, and I'll see you later.